What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's What's on Kickstarter. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the great, good, and not so good decks recently released, as well as some other fun campaigns you can find on Kickstarter. So make sure to stick around to the end to find out all of the fun things that Kickstarter has to offer this week. Good, Steve, I gotta say, I'm really excited to see what came out this week. We got about 8 or 9 new decks this week, some really great ones, and even some new designers who brought some really cool artwork to the table.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's always good when we have a little step up from last week in the amount of decks, so
absolutely
looking forward to it.
I was really worried with last week that we were going to end up having a real big decline until the end of the year, so having a handful of new decks this week is really encouraging.
Yeah, well, let's get into it.
All right, man, let's do it. And coming in for this week's first great deck, we have the 1-deck game cards, 52 cards, Zillions of Games. Dude, I gotta say, this is a really interesting take on a travel deck from Rob Hallifax. You may remember Rob from his earlier deck this year, the Cocktails playing cards. They were actually a deck that showed off a whole bunch of cocktail recipes, which I thought was really cool. I ended up getting around like 1,600 backers.
Yeah, I totally crushed it.
Dude, no question about it. This is a really cool deck. We've seen some takes on travel decks in the past. You know, a handful of games in them. Flex deck is a great one that comes to mind. Looks like Rob really took that idea and ran with it here, bringing other games like checkers, chess, backgammon, and so much more into the deck, which I think is really cool, especially if you're looking to take something with you on a family trip or with your kids and you need to distract them while they're in the car, whatever it may be. One of the really cool things about this, too, that stood out to me, Steve, was the fact that they're square cards.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I like the fact that you can use the back of the deck for checkers.
Absolutely, man. Really interesting take on it. Really kind of creative way to make sure you have a travel-ready set here.
Yeah, really cool. Tons of games. Zillions of games.
Zillions of games. Really dives right into the story behind this, and obviously being a travel deck, we see that the cards themselves are the story, and I really like that aspect of it. Getting into it, we see one of the big things that stood out to me was the how to back the project. I'm not always a huge fan of these instructions. I think they're a little counterintuitive in comparison to what Kickstarter does naturally. You say pick your pledge, you click on back this project, and shipping address will be taken at the end of the campaign if target is met. While I understand that it's kind of a instruction, they're not very instructional in its own way. You know, that's following those 3 steps isn't going to get you to successfully fully back the campaign. So from that point of view, I'm not always a big fan of these sort of like shortened instructions, and if you are going to put them, I always think it's better to put them towards the bottom because it allows a better flow for the campaign.
Yeah, for sure.
So getting into the cards themselves, we see again these really cool square cards, some really great photography and animation across the board for this campaign.
Yeah, and it's good that they actually use the actual deck in the photos.
Yes, it looks really clean there. I'm sure it was probably a prototype deck. I think these are printing with Cardamundi, and we can find out more about that, I think, further down. One thing too, and we've mentioned this in the past, I'm really not a big fan of the redundancy of the reward tiers there. The tiers, as long as they're written well, are pretty self-sufficient. The one thing I will say with this one is utilizing on the tiers the idea of bullet points to add those concise points so people know exactly what they're getting does help remove some of the redundancy around this, but I do think this is very well built out if you're going to use the full visual, because you have the decks in there, you have the cost in there, you have the title in there as well.
And the text is big.
Yes, it's very legible. So How Many Games talks a little bit more about the deck, getting into the whole idea of design of it, giving that backstory is really nice, helps build that kind of that vibe with your potential backer to really get them invested in the campaign itself.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, I do have to say, too, this is a very long campaign. For everything that's included, understandably, it would be longer than a normal campaign, but it feels extremely long, especially with explaining how to play this with backgammon, how to play this with checkers. I would almost take that off of the campaign and say, you know, a PDF with instructions on how to use the cards for all of these games will be included with each, you know, successful backer. I think that helps remove some of the maybe not as interesting information that is potentially there, because if someone doesn't care about how to play backgammon, you now have a full scroll or two here on a mobile device that I'm just not paying attention. You want people paying attention for the entirety of the campaign, or as much as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, people who know how to play backgammon, they'll figure out how to set up that backgammon board.
100%. I think it's interesting they included dice in it, though, too. That's really cool.
That is cool. I have no idea how to play dice, though.
I mean, I probably use them for any sort of dice games, so that would be the interesting part about it. Then we get into the back design here. Really subtle back design, as you mentioned earlier. I think it looks really clean there. There's just so much information. This is where we're finally getting down to the card specs, and I think this is where our feature section would have been super helpful up top, because we're basically in the last fifth of the campaign before we actually get the specs of the deck. So we see that it's going to be printed by Cardamundi, which I think is great. A little bit of an about me for Rob, which I also think is great, especially towards the end, because it allows you to draw more personal connection with the backers there. And hey, you've put out several decks and they've really done well, so why not build that kind of connection with your repeat backers. We also see shipping here. They're going to be handling UK shipping themselves, using Gambler's Warehouse for US distribution and Dealies for Germany. So great covering there. Also, I love the use of the logos there. It's always recommended. People recognize those visual brandings. It really helps a lot. And then we have some fun little aspects here. He throws on the social media, which I always love to see. A little bit of a list of references. This is where I would have put a lot of that explanation about how to play the games themselves, other than maybe chess, checkers, and dominoes. Like the most popular games, that's what I would have kept up top. The rest I would have put in the bottom.
Yeah, I agree.
Talks about a little bit of the environmental commitment there, and taking a look real quick at the risks and challenges. Nicely put together risks and challenges. Touches on some of the goings on in the world right now that really are going to potentially impact that campaign. So I gotta say, really nicely put together, Rob. I'm excited for this campaign. It looks like a well-deserved great campaign there with 860 backers already.
What's the price point on this?
So we are looking at 22 shipped for the early bird and 25 for the standard. So I do have to say, you know, printing with a non-standard shape, you know, a non-poker, non-bridge, does have some associated additional costs. So I could see this being a little bit higher on the price point. Plus, it's really not just a deck of cards. It is all of these other games. From that point of view, you're probably looking at a different demographic where that $25 price point might be a little more reasonable. Though I do still think a $21, $22 price point on this would have been perfect.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. And coming in for this week's first good campaign, we have the 90s football shirt playing cards, the International deck. So this is actually the second deck from John Morse. John goes right into a great story here, explaining the success of his first deck, the excitement behind creating a second deck, and really hooking someone in who may not have seen the first deck, or may just really be interested in football and the whole kind of football shirt idea of that. I really think it's an interesting theme. Did a nice job as well with the visuals, splitting the text and the visuals pretty evenly so far.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Okay. Having a little picture of him in there.
It's a very nice touch. It adds that kind of personal aspect to it as well. People love to know their creator. The one thing I think he did right here too is he has the picture of himself, but he doesn't get into it about me yet. I think that can always break things up. You want to keep that towards the bottom. So I think that's great that he didn't do it too early up.
And he has a prototype of the deck in there, which is always great.
Yes, absolutely. So running through, we can see a little bit of a background on the cards themselves, the jokers, subs, and the box. One thing I would have liked to see was a feature section up top, maybe talking about who's going to be printing, fulfilling, a little bit more of the specs around the cards themselves. It looks like we have several potential tucks here, one of which is an add-on. So a very interesting kind of concept there where you have a deck and you can have two tucks for said deck.
Yeah, interesting.
That's a little bit of a comparison on the card back to bicycle playing cards, which is interesting there as well. And then we dive into the rewards. The one thing I will say with this one is I think this probably could go by the wayside there. I don't necessarily think a text-based only reward explanation is as beneficial as what you've already put in the tiers themselves. So allowing someone to read about the campaign and hit on the key parts that are not tier-based and let them deal with the tiers in the area it's really meant for it is beneficial. Also, if you're going to do something like this, you really got to do it visually. You have to show what you're going to get in the tier, what the cost is, what the information is that makes that tier unique from other tiers. In this one, it's very, very rudimentary. You'd be better off probably bringing this image somewhere else and actually nixing the rewards tier.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, if I see a lot of that text in there, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see the cool add-ons here. Would like to see a couple stretch goals because I do think this is actually a really interesting campaign where stretch goals would be perfectly fitted for it. Keychains, coins, fun things like that that go along with football would definitely be helpful. We can see the shipping costs here. We never looked to mark up on shipping. So it looks like they're going to be self-fulfilling, which great to see. You probably could have combined shipping and fulfillment into the same section. They're somewhat synonymous. maybe title it fulfillment and then just have the whole thing kind of broken down there with a subsection on the shipping, but this works as well. The one thing I didn't see here, though, which I really wanted to see, was the printer. And I know they mentioned that they're going to be using a local printer then. We'll be printing your deck in the UK with a trusted supplier. Get the name out there. It never hurts to say who your deck printer is. A, you're doing them a good deed by sharing their name out there as a good printer to use if other people are looking to do a campaign. And B, for people who are aware of them and like the stock, it actually builds confidence in the campaign as well.
Yeah, for sure. What are these coming in at?
We are looking at 27 shipped for a single, 25 on the early bird. And this is one thing I will tell you here. International shipping and self-fulfillment very rarely mix. So with that in mind, a big recommendation here would be to reach out to a fulfillment company to see if you can get a better deal on shipment, depending on where the majority of your backers are. With a lot of campaigns, I would usually say 80% will be in the US. With this being a football-themed deck, there's a very good chance that most are international and those shipping rates are going to be competitive, but it never hurts to make sure that from a fulfillment point of view, you're using the best cost possible.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. And coming up for this week's First Needs Help campaign, we have the Portrait playing cards from Stuart Sharpe. So I have to say, this is actually a really interesting back design. It's got a bit of a fun tuck to it. I know you're not a big fan of red, Steve, but looking past that, I think there's a lot of potential in this deck on first glance. Some of the things that I think stand out the most to me on this one of why it needs help is there's just not a lot of information here. I think it's great that they touch on the fact that they're going to be using make playing cards. I think it's great that they kind of talk about the cards themselves and the backstory for it. They also touch on what the funding is actually going to be going towards, which I always think is important. The one thing I will say there, though, is that Kickstarter actually has a pie chart function that allows you to break that out in a much more visual way than just a little bit of text here. Being a designer as well, I also really highly advocate for image-based headers to really create a flow and a story to your campaign. You have a great story about why you created the campaign and why you went for this, but the deck itself needs its own story. In addition to that, who's going to be fulfilling? You know, you make playing cards is going to be printing. What kind of stock are you printing on? What kind of print run are you looking at? All of this pertinent information there, which I think would be very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. What's the price?
We are looking at 21 shipped. So all things considered, it's coming in at a reasonable price point. That $3, the funny thing I will say is that $3 shipping earmarked versus $18 for the deck. It's probably a little bit skewed. You'd probably be better off with 15 and 6, just the way prices are breaking out now. But at the end of the day, you're getting to the same price point. So do keep in mind that that $3 shipping in the US is not going to cover a deck, even if you're doing bubble mailers. And please do not do bubble mailers.
Good luck.
Good luck. And for another great deck this week, we have the Nerds vs. Jocks playing cards by Mike Wilson, aka the Doc 318. Absolutely great campaign. This is a deck designed by Randy Butterfield that Mike and Randy have been working on for a while now. Really glad to see it coming back to Kickstarter. One of the things I will say on this one is I think just breaking up a little bit of this text between these images here would make the flow a little bit more consistent, a little less text heavy at the top and image heavy right after. Think about the mobile experience. That's one of the biggest things I'll stand out here for you guys. The mobile experience is crucial with a campaign these days, and I think making sure that your visuals and your text are evenly dispersed really is very helpful. But again, really excited to see these two decks come into life here. That goal is the only thing that makes me nervous, and it may just be print run oriented. They do mention printer and fulfillment on this, printing with expert, but 2 decks at $2,000 is a pretty low goal unless there's going to be self-funding. So do keep in mind that if you are going to be partially funding from Kickstarter, it's always helpful to be transparent about that so backers are not concerned about why the goal is so low. That being said, though, too, Randy is a great name of the community. Mike has done decks in the past. They have a good amount of credibility to carry them through this, even with a low goal.
Hey, good luck.
Good luck. And for another great campaign this week, we have the Windmill back playing cards from Arcadia Playing Cards. I absolutely love that very traditional style that Christian brings to all of his decks. Amazing designer. Love the real quick overview there, and the just great look of this campaign. Phenomenal artwork on his end. These renders that he does are top-notch. Really well put together.
Yeah, I mean, I love his style and I love his work, and he does great photography slash renders for his
It
campaigns.
really does. I think he did a very nice job as well, making sure that the visuals and the text were interdispersed nicely so you have a good flow to this campaign. Right here, I would throw a little bit more in there or maybe combine these and use the image up top. But other than that, really nicely done.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the Althea Fairies playing cards from Spark Technology Group, LLC. The one thing I will say is I think they could better utilize the subtitle here. Think of those heavyweight keywords that really draw people in on a Kickstarter campaign. Folklore, mythology, fairies, magic. All of these things you could put in there in sentence format to really help capture someone's attention from the jump. The other thing that stood out to me on this one, while being a great campaign, I do have a little bit of confusion on the fulfillment side. It mentions here printed and fulfilled by NPC, but down here we say self-fulfilled. So just making sure you're consistent on your statements there is a big thing. But I really think this deck has a lot of fun artwork to it, really nicely put together. I would throw a little more text in between some of the visuals, but otherwise really well put together.
Good luck.
And for another Needs Help campaign this week, we have the Geometric Playing Cards Minimalist Designs by May M. So I gotta say, this campaign is pretty self-explanatory as to why it needs help. There's very little information on it. A lot of visuals, which is great, but at the same time, the visuals are very redundant. We have an interesting one-way back design here. We have 3 jokers, which is a unique take on things, but all of the cards just are the same. Yeah. So it's very, very unique in that aspect. And while I understand the minimalist approach to it, like, these pips and the central pips actually play a part in usability of a deck of cards. So in my opinion, this is currently not a usable deck of cards other than maybe for something like cardistry. But at the end of the day, you want something that's playable. This is not playable. You want to put more information in there. It's also made me kind of chuckle here that they mention sustainable materials such as PVC. So plastic isn't necessarily a sustainable material when it comes to playing cards. Usually when you see sustainable materials, you see things like papers, vegetable-based inks, you know, water-based glues, things like that. Plastic is usually not sustainable. With that in mind, based on the lack of information on this and the first-time creator and just the whole kind of approach on it, especially because the currency and the location don't match, I would throw a beware on this campaign here. It has a few red flags that just stand out to me as worrisome. So definitely beware of this campaign this week.
Good luck.
So Steve, I gotta say, man, I'm curious to see what you are planning on backing this week.
I'm gonna just back the Windmill.
All right.
By Arcadia.
Dude, that's a fair enough one. I gotta say, there were some really interesting decks this week. I think I'm probably on Arcadia, and I like the artwork on the Althea Fairies one. I'm not gonna lie. Further down, they actually show off the artwork and not the design process. And it's really, really cool. It kind of has a fantasy vibe to it. I'd probably be in for those 2 this week.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, dude, it's an interesting week for sure. Handful of new decks, varying art styles for sure. So some people may love one, may love all of them. But as always, we always love to know what you all are going to be backing this week. So make sure to drop a comment right down below and let us know what decks caught your eye and also what decks you're excited to be receiving soon. Coming up to the fun time. Ready for this, Steve?
It's that time already?
It is. We had some great decks this week, but we're going to be checking out some really fun campaigns here. So why don't we jump right into it, man?
Do it.
First up for my first fun campaign this week, we have the Resident Evil the board game. I gotta say, man, I grew up with the Resident Evil franchise, whether it was the video games, the movies. So to see a board game come to life really got me excited. First and foremost, I mentioned this last week, I love a good miniature. Anything miniature related catches my eye. I don't know what it is about them, they just fascinate me. But love the styling of this as well. They use that really nice, simple scroll, image-based, very much more so image-based with text than text-based. There are some text-based sections in this, but they fit perfectly into it. Nicely sized font, just clean looking.
Yeah, no, definitely clean looking. Now, are you a paint the miniature type person or just leave them as is?
Honestly, I don't even own any miniatures other than some pre-painted ones, but I just like the concept of it. I do have a 3D printer and I've been trying to get it set back up so I can start making my own miniatures again. But I just like the attention to detail that goes into them. I mean, you can see it here. These things are so tiny and there's so much detail in it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you can even see the wrinkles in the pants and everything.
So this is actually a great example as well of a breakdown of pledge levels here, really going into what you get at each tier versus, you know, something that we see otherwise where it's just text-based and there's really nothing to capture you and help draw you in and show you what you're actually going to be getting. I think one of the biggest things when including the tiers in the campaign is to help people visualize as much as possible what they're going to have in hand at the end of it.
So interesting.
Dude, Resident Evil is a crazy franchise too, so to be able to get this is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love the movies, obviously. What's something like this go for?
We are looking at...
They probably have multi-level tiers that you can get different parts of the game.
So it includes the board game on this one. It's $100.
Wow.
But if you want the all-in pledge, which gets you the board game, the expansion packs, player mat, the other expansion, extra dice, the monster box, all that, you're looking at $297. And shipping is not set up within the campaign, so it's probably going to be handled as a pledge manager after.
300 bones.
Dude. Yeah, but you know what?
You get a lot of stuff, though.
You really do, and I think someone who's really into this franchise and into this style of gaming would love it.
Now, what's the game time on it? Does it say?
I don't think it said, to be honest. Let me see.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I didn't know. There you go, 90 to 120 minutes. So Monopoly level, quick Monopoly game. Quick Monopoly game.
Very quick.
Two-person Monopoly, not four-person Monopoly. Oh my gosh. But yeah.
I don't remember the last time I played. Well, I don't remember the last time I played Monopoly. Never mind a 120 Monopoly game. But
you gotta play with two people.
I remember that game. I remember that game going for like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours sometimes and being like mad at the opponent.
But you can't play with more than 2 people. That's too long. Dude, this is sick though. 5,600 backers, $1.2 million raised. This game has done some phenomenal stuff. You can see licensed by Capcom. They've got it all built out here, really nicely done. I love seeing these like licensed collaborative efforts. Some of this stuff.
Yeah, good luck.
Fun campaign for sure. But good luck.
Yeah, right.
And for another fun campaign this week, we have the TitanCraft Heroes Custom Miniatures. Dude, like I said, this is a miniatures week for me. The reason
I don't know.
The reason is though, no,
because
because this is not a campaign for miniatures. This is a campaign for a company that will allow you on their web-based platform to design your own miniature, and then they will make it for you and send it to you. So we could make Steve and Tyler miniatures.
Dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Dude, that's dope.
You're digging this one now, aren't you?
I don't know. It depends. What's the price coming at?
So this is the interesting thing, though. The whole goal of this one, you actually buy asset packs that allow you to unlock different design features of the platform. So there's a base level of the platform, then there's premium levels of it, and by backing different aspects of the campaign, you can unlock different features of the campaign. So you can see it with the stars have improvement here, but it talks about all of the different improvements over their current one. So a lot of the funding for this is actually going towards helping to build out the infrastructure for their new platform, which I think is really cool. So you aren't necessarily getting... I mean, you are getting something depending on your pledge level, but you aren't necessarily getting something physical. You might actually be getting something digital that you can then turn into something physical when you create a miniature. Base tier on this one is $14 for a 28mm custom miniature printed in high detail gray resin.
How much is it?
$14.
14 bucks?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, dude. It's really a clever idea. You can see how cool the platform itself looks. This thing got me excited because I've seen some things like this online before, and I think it actually might have been their first platform. So to see them coming out with a new platform with added accessories for your customization and added aspects to the platform is really cool.
Interesting.
I'm excited for this one. It looks really fun. So we're gonna have to see about those Steve and Tyler miniatures.
Goodness gracious. Keep me away.
Oh, yeah, we'll see. And for another fun campaign from Steve this week, we have the TreePod Canopy, a Spacious Cabana and Hammock hybrid.
You have a board game, an RPG game, and miniatures, and I have a tree canopy.
Yes, this is Steve's vibe. I could see Steve in a public park just hanging out in this thing.
Oh, 100%. So cool, dude. I mean, I don't know about you, but I love hammocks. Hammocks are so relaxing. I've always loved the idea of like a tree house, or, you know, when I go to my friend's house and they have one of those, they're not pong chairs, but they're like chairs that kind of hang in the corner.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I just always love them. They're so comfortable. You can just go in there and chill. And this is just a cool way to, have a few people in there, chill. You can have a picnic. Kind of cool.
Dude. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. This is awesome. If I had a backyard that had a great view, this would be fun to hang out in for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great, especially if you have kids. They can go in there and play and get off your face and, kind of do their own thing nowadays. It's, I think 265 is a flash sale. Yeah. It gets a little pricier. I think it's like 295 after the early bird.
That's for the small of the two. Jeez, the big one is 380.
That's a 7.5 feet though.
Yeah, but dude, I mean, I don't think you're fitting more than 2 people in that small one.
No, I don't know, man. 6 feet across? That's pretty big.
Yeah, but since it's circular, the diameter gets smaller as you go. So you'd have to have 2 adults in the middle and then children on either side to shrink with the circular aspect of it. So
yeah,
that 7.5 diameter one's where it's at, man.
That's big. Dude, you could stand up in there. 6 feet tall.
You could have your wedding in it, Steve.
Yeah, no, I think we have more than 3 to 5 people. So
there you go.
This won't work.
But you can get an optional bug net.
Dude, we could bring it on a honeymoon. How's that?
There you go. Dude, this thing is really cool. I'm not gonna lie. The price point though is a little bit tough for me to swallow, but I really do dig this. And honestly,
this would be worth it if it did have zip-up doors with the mesh, kind of like a tent.
Well, and you can get that right here though for an extra $239. You get all the accessories.
No, that should be included in a $300 price tag. I'm not paying, $800 for literally a hanging tent.
So here's what I'll say though to that aspect of it. How much do you pay on patio furniture? You spend a lot of money on patio furniture. A good set of patio furniture, a chair could cost you $500.
I mean, one chair for $500 for patio furniture? That's crazy.
Dude, full sets of patio furniture usually cost anywhere from a couple thousand to like a couple tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, for sure. And they'll probably last a lot longer than this tent right here.
I don't know about that. This thing, if it's a good canvas, could last forever.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm skeptical paying, right here, $800 for a hanging tent. That's all I'm saying. Because first of all, if it's in your backyard, different story. If it's chilling in your backyard. But if you're like traveling with it, if you're hiking with it, you got to find, somewhere where you can hang it. It's just, that's a lot of money.
Here's the one thing I will also say to this too, is you're getting more than just the tent for the $800. The accessories also include a mattress that goes inside the tent. So you're getting a tent, a bug net, an air mattress, the inflator for it.
That's worth $800. The air mattress and everything's worth $800.
That's what I'm saying. Sure. So I think the $800 price point there is not too bad. The bug net plus the thing for like $600 probably isn't as good of a deal.
Yeah, just that. Like you'd have to include that mattress. That makes it worth it. Regardless, it's a cool item. It's really cool. At $300, I can see paying that because it'd definitely be a lot of fun. 800, I don't know what to say about that.
Steve likes his lounge furniture.
It just looks so cool. I don't think I'd do it at a park though.
Now it's pretty interesting for sure. You definitely need a backyard for it, somewhere with a nice view. But good luck on this one. This is a really cool campaign.
Yeah.
And for another fun campaign this week, we have the EXINNO 240 watt, 120 watt, the king of chargers. Based on the amount of chargers that Steve loves on these things, I feel like he's got like 900 devices, but I know he doesn't. I
have a lot of devices and I have a lot of charges. That's the crazy thing. It's funny because whenever the power goes out, I'm always like, it's all good because I have so many external chargers that are all charged up, ready to go. So it doesn't really matter. But I'm just a huge fan of portable chargers that you can utilize multiple, products. And, this just hooked me.
This is interesting, man.
Yeah, it's kind of big to plug into an outlet. I'll be honest with that, but...
Well, I'll also say with the imagery here, they just plugged it in the wrong outlet. It 100% could have gone in the bottom outlet and not blocked anything. So that one caught me a little off guard there. But that being said, yeah, it is pretty big. But look how much you're getting into it, though, too. You have 3 USB-C plugs, 3 USB-A plugs.
Yeah.
The one thing I would like to see with it is since it's taking up both outlets there, and granted that's just because of how they placed it, it would be nice if it actually had a pass-through outlet as well.
Yeah, I wonder if there's one on the top or the bottom. I don't think there is.
Yeah.
I actually have one that has an outlet on it plugged in, so you can plug directly into it with your laptop or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah,
Dude.
but this is really cool. You know, it's not too bad. I think it's like $115, which, you know, isn't bad.
128.
Yeah, that's for the first batch. So I think the second batch is a little more.
Very cool, man. I just can't imagine having... God damn it. I just can't imagine having this many devices to charge in one place. Like, it would create such a clutter.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a photographer, though, like, you know,
and I can see it from that point of view for sure.
You have your flash, you have many different components that you need to plug in at one time. You're on the go, you're shooting a wedding, and you need to, you know, charge multiple things at once. It's definitely
I actually like the extension cable aspect of it too, because then you can put it on your desk.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit more, you know, out of the way versus being in the wall outlet. I definitely like that.
Yeah, that's definitely better than, you know, some other chargers.
Yeah, but I could buy a lot of power strips for $130.
Yeah, this would definitely be next level if it had a battery inside of it. That way you can unplug it, bring it on the plane, and, you know, you can charge something on the go.
Yeah. Definitely cool though, man. I like the kind of organization aspect of it. Very cool campaign.
Yeah.
Well, good luck on that one. And dude, this was a really fun week. I gotta say, some beautiful decks out there, some really interesting, fun campaigns. As always, we love to hear what everyone out there is planning on backing, whether it be something to help declutter your desk, some custom miniatures, a board game, or anything else under the sun. So make sure to leave a comment right down below and let us know what caught your eye this week on Kickstarter. And while you're at it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Peace out.